You're listening to ADHD Support Talk. ADHD Support Talk is brought to you by addclasses.com. Visit www.addclasses.com to sign up for helpful online events and resources today. Well, I want to welcome you back to ADHD Support Talk. I'm your co-host, Lynne Edris, and I am here to help overwhelmed professionals and entrepreneurs reduce procrastination, improve time management, and get more done with less effort so that you have more time, energy, and even money for what you love the most. You can learn more about me and the programs and services I offer at www.coachingadvantages.com. And remember, guys, I'm a woman with ADHD, so I get it, right? I've been there, done that, and I have the t-shirts myself, seriously. But I really do know what it's like to live in that constant state of chaos and overwhelm and underperformance that my clients know far too well. But I also know what it's like to come out the other side and to live a life of more success and fulfillment than I once dreamed was possible. And that's what I want for each and every one of you, because I know that's what's possible. So today we're going to dive into a topic that's close to my heart and essential for all adults with ADHD and really all adults in general. I'm talking about practical productivity. We'll explore how perfectionistic tendencies and all or nothing thinking can get in the way, and how being more realistic in our expectations can lead to greater success and satisfaction. So I want to start with the concept of practical productivity. So in a nutshell, it's about finding realistic, flexible, and effective ways to manage your time and your tasks and basically your life. And what that looks like exactly is going to be a little different for each of you based on your natural strengths and tendencies, what works for you, and based on your own life. But one thing is for sure, for adults with ADHD, traditional productivity advice really often falls short because it doesn't account for the way we're wired and the unique challenges we face. So when I talk about practical productivity, I'm talking about the systems and the tools and the processes and the behaviors and the changes in thinking that support us in getting done the things that matter most when we intend to do them, and showing up in a way that fits our values and our capabilities. So even if it's messy, even if it's imperfect, even if it's weird or odd or quirky, even if it looks different than how other people do it or how you think you should be doing things, actually, maybe I should say, especially if it's imperfect, weird, odd, or quirky, and especially if it looks different than how other people do it or how you think you should do the thing. That's what practical productivity is all about. If it works for you and it enables you to do what you need and want to do and show up like the amazing person you really are deep down, that's all that matters. I really want you to hear that, okay? It's not just okay, it's to be expected that you have different ways of doing things. And I want you to embrace that, because that is so important in taking advantage of your strengths and who you are and how you're wired. So practical productivity is having what you need to support you in living your life your way, not anybody else's way. Unapologetically your way. That's what I want for you. And that's what I want you to start to learn to embrace through this episode, for starters. So it's important to define practical productivity for you, for your life, because your definition might and very well likely is different than my definition. And again, not only is that okay, but it's to be expected. So in essence, I'm asking you to think about and really kind of define for yourself the end goal of productivity in practical terms. So let me give you an example. I always think that makes life a little bit easier. So for me, for my life, practical productivity means I don't miss deadlines. It means that I also don't have that mad panicked rush and stress of last minute surprises. I'm using my quotey fingers, you can't see, like the quote, surprise meetings I forgot about, or surprise deadlines that sneak up on me. For me, practical productivity means I show up as the thoughtful, caring, and responsible person I really am deep down and I mean to be, not flaky, frantic, and frazzled. It does not mean that I get every single thing done on my to-do list every single day. Okay, I want you to hear this. It does not mean that things never hang out on my to-do list, but it does mean that things don't hang out on my to-do list for more than a day or two before they get analyzed, evaluated, and addressed. So take a moment to think about what practical productivity means for you. What is the end goal of improving your productivity in terms of how you function and how it impacts you on a practical day-to-day basis? That's kind of like how I talk with my clients about organization, right? A lot of us have this idea that we need to be perfectly organized, right? Like our homes and our offices ought to be HGTV ready at any given moment. But really, what matters most in terms of your life and fulfillment is functionality, right? So my office, I would need some warning before the HGTV crew and cameras came in here. And that's okay. It's functional. I don't lose stuff. I don't, or I should say, I very rarely anymore lose stuff. I don't misplace things. I don't live and work in an environment that makes it hard for me to focus and concentrate, but it sure is far from perfect. So again, I want you to think about, what does quote practical productivity mean for you? What's the end goal of improving your productivity as it relates to how you function, how you live your life, and how it impacts you on a day-to-day basis in practical ways. Okay? And please share your definition on the comments on this episode or in the ADHD Support Talk Facebook group. I would love to hear what you guys think about productivity and what your definition of practical productivity is. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what gets in the way of practical productivity for many of us with ADHD. And one of the biggest obstacles I see with my clients is perfectionism. And that comes in all different sort of shapes and sizes, right? And a lot of my clients are aware that they have those sort of perfectionistic tendencies, but a lot of my clients don't see it that way until we can really dig at what's getting in their way. So perfectionism is, basically all or nothing thinking that can be paralyzing. So if you think, I didn't get all the things done on my list today, so today was a waste, or today was a failure, or I blew it again, or I didn't get everything in my task management system, so that system doesn't work for me, right? I didn't do all the stuff in my task management system, so the system doesn't work for me. That's all or nothing thinking. There are a lot of different iterations of that. Does that sound familiar to you? Perfectionism can set us up for failure because it's unrealistic. It's an unrealistic standard. It's important to remember that progress, not perfection, is the goal. I know you've heard that a bazillion times, but it's not just some, trite statement. It's not just some trite slogan or something that somebody came up with. Imperfect progress is still progress, and we need to learn to count it. One of the things I tell my clients all the time is action trumps inaction anytime. So anytime you can take action on something, that's worth celebrating, that's worth giving yourself credit for, and it's also worth repeating, right? Setting realistic expectations is crucial for our accomplishments, but it's also crucial for our systems, our tools, our strategies, and how we use them and how we do things. So I often hear from my clients that a certain tool or a certain process or a certain strategy didn't work for them because they weren't able to use it or execute it perfectly or in the way they thought they should execute or use it. For example, my client Jody, obviously I'm not using her real name, but let's call her Jody, comes to mind when I think of this. So she told me earlier this week that the end of day wrap up and planning process she has been putting into place isn't working. It turns out that what she considered to be, quote, the process working was for her to do this whole long, time consuming list of things at the end of every workday before she ran out to pick up her kids, and she had to do it all perfectly. So she was ready to throw the baby out with the bathwater and start from scratch, when really what she needed was more realistic expectations and more flexibility in how she was approaching it, so that it had that just right amount of structure, but not so much that it became this unrealistic, like burdensome process that she wasn't able to keep going. So you may have heard me say before that most of us with ADHD need to stay on the right side of the effort payback balance. And what I mean by that is it's easiest to maintain things that we perceive as having greater payback compared to the effort we're putting into it. So the bang has to be worth the buck for us, or, the juice has to be worth the squeeze, or whatever you prefer in terms of, expressions, or it becomes unsustainable for us very quickly, right? And it's not because we lack willpower or stick-to-itiveness, or we don't have a good work ethic. It's because of how we're wired, right? It's harder for us to feel motivation and harder for us to feel feelings of reward that reinforce the behaviors that we want to reinforce, right? Because of, again, our neurochemical differences, particularly dopamine, but other things as well. So we need to make sure that we have flexible systems and processes. Rigid systems, all or nothing systems, trying to plug yourself into someone else's way of doing something, like right out of the box, more often than not will lead to frustration and burnout if you have ADHD, especially. So it's vital to have a system that can adapt to you and with you. For example, a task management app that lets you easily move tasks around, or a physical planner that allows for notes and adjustments, or structure and rhythm to your days that allows for that just right amount of structure and framework that guides you, but that also having that just right amount of give and flexibility to it. Flexibility is one of the keys to maintaining productivity without feeling constrained and confined. So when things don't go as planned, and let's face it, like often they don't, right? It's important to not just allow yourself, but to expect yourself to revise and adapt rather than throw it all out when life throws you a curveball. Practical productivity also involves using tools and techniques that work for you. There are many, 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 many systems, tools, apps, calendar tools, physical planners, all the things out there, right? And it's important to look at what you like about what you're already doing and what feels easiest and most natural to you, instead of just repeatedly plugging yourself into someone else's box. And this is so important for those of us who have ADHD and those kinds of tendencies. We need to work with our natural strengths and tendencies, and how we process information naturally, how we organize things naturally, and our unique quirks and idiosyncrasies. And when we identify what works for us, when you identify what works for you and why it works for you, then you can build on that. That's what I do with my clients and in my Unleashed 90-day time management mentoring group, right? It's what is practical productivity that works and is sustainable for the long haul. It has to be designed to work for you, not the other way around. And it's so important for you to do you unapologetically. I often say that most productivity gurus would shudder at some of my processes, but I don't care as long as they work for me. That's what matters. And that's true for you. And that brings me to another important thing about practical productivity that you may find surprising. I'm talking about self-compassion and self-care. These are critical components of practical productivity. Be nice to yourself when things don't go as planned. Be kind, be gentle. Recognize that everyone has off days and it's okay. Recognize that it takes time and practice and revision and adjustment and experimentation to find what works for you. Integrating self-care into your productivity plan can help you maintain a balanced and sustainable approach and make it easier for you to learn what works for you. So make sure you celebrate small wins. This can boost your motivation and your morale, but it also can help you really understand what works for you and why. Those small wins are each an indicator of something that works for you, a natural strength, a natural tendency, or something that you've put in place that is supporting you well. So when you learn to recognize and appreciate your achievements, no matter how small they may seem, you start to accumulate a deeper knowledge about yourself and how you work best that you can use to build on in every area of your life. So if you completed a task that you've been putting off, for example, take a moment and acknowledge that win. Celebrate that small victory. It can create positive momentum, and then get curious about what made the difference that time so that you can do it again. You can replicate it. You can build upon it in the future. Lastly, I do want to say that community and support are just they're invaluable in this process. Having a support system in a community of people who really get you can make a world of difference. Engaging with a community of like-minded individuals can provide encouragement, new ideas, a sense of belonging, brainstorming. I mean, one of the biggest benefits of the group programs that I've created is providing a safe space where you can make changes and you can improve what challenges you the most with people who get you and are working on the same things you're working on and working to improve. It really can be life-changing when you find your tribe and you find a community that is dealing with the same kinds of challenges that you are. And if you're looking for a community, you're welcome. Everyone is welcome to join our ADHD Support Talk Facebook group. It's a great place to share experiences, tips, support one another, and also to help us learn about what it is that you want, what we can do to help you on your journey in terms of topics you'd like to hear about, guests you'd like us to have on, and that sort of thing. So just to make sure, you're clear, right? Practical productivity is about getting clear on what means for you to set realistic expectations, use flexible systems, adapt to change, have self-compassion and self-care, and find community and support so that you can function and fulfill your life in the way that you're capable of and the way that is really compatible with who you are and your values, and again, what you're capable of deep down. These strategies can help you navigate the unique challenges of ADHD and achieve a more balanced and really a much more fulfilling life. So I hope you found this episode helpful. I hope you'll start by implementing one or two tips and see how something works for you. Let us know in the comments on this episode what you're taking away, what you're trying, or join us in the ADHD Support Talk community. But no matter what, remember to focus on progress, not perfection. All right. As always, I appreciate your attention. And until next time, take care of you and be nice to you. Again, this is Lynne Edris, and this has been ADHD Support Talk. Thanks for listening.